There we go. Let's start the recording.
You don't lose it. Yeah.
You snooze, you lose. You use it, you lose it. I'm telling you, if fifth grade kids can learn this whole thing by heart, so could you.
Because they are smart.
No, but
No, they're not.
I used to teach elderly how to use their laptops, right? And then they would come to me every 2 weeks or a month, and I'm like, "Do you do this at home without me?" No. I'm like, "How do you expect it to get in your brain? You have to do it by yourself.
It's with anything
Thank God
that.
I don't need that.
Yeah, you
All
can need
right,
it.
so we are this week in Parshas Balak, and before we go into it, I would like to ask you, like I always do every week, what do you know about Parshas Balak? What do you know about the name Balak? What do you know about this portion of the story? Just to bring us back to where let's come back to where we are, right? The Torah, the 5 books of Moses, comes from the Hebrew word hora'ah, which means lesson, teachings, how to live our lives. So the only anything that's written in the Torah is there as a manual. It's a blueprint and lessons for our life. Yeah, we didn't open up yet. It's okay. No, it's okay. What page is it?
10:14.
10:14. So anything that's recorded in the Torah is there for a purpose. There's a lesson that Hashem wants me to learn today. Not just history. If it was history, it would be 9,000 volumes, right? How do you encapsulate a couple thousand years into just one book or 5 books? Every lesson in the Torah is here to teach us. Every story is a lesson about how to live my life. So the Jews are traveling, right? We're in the year 2448. That's the year that the Jewish people received the Torah on Mount Sinai, right? Jewish people left Egypt and they're traveling for 40 years in the desert. They enter into the land of Israel in the year 2488. So there's that 40-year period that pretty much Vayikra, Bamidbar, and Devarim, 3 out of the 5 books, talk about this 40-year period. Interesting. And this 40-year period is when we receive the Torah and receive all the mitzvos, and which it goes into at length. But right now, the Jewish people are traveling, and where are they going to? They're traveling to the land of Israel. Who starts up with them? Who starts up with them? Amalek is one group that starts up for them. Who's a descendant of Amalek?
Haman.
Very good. Haman is a descendant of Amalek. Yeah. Who else? Who else starts up with the Jewish people? By the way, everybody starts up with the Jewish people. Some of them have less chutzpah, some of them have more chutzpah. Amalek is the biggest one who has chutzpah, is because they were the first. Nobody started up with the Jewish people when they left Egypt, because everybody had heard about the great miracles, the splitting of the sea and the 10 plagues and the way the Torah was given. Amalek had the chutzpah to be the first one, and once they started, other people started up. So what happens? What do you know about Balak? First of all, who is Balak?
Prophet.
No, that's Bilam. Who's Balak? Balak is a king. Very good. Who is he the king of?
Canaan?
No. Which nation is Balak the? Who? Of Moab.
Oh, yeah.
And he is the king, and he is not excited that the Jewish people are passing by his land. He's on the southeast of Israel, and they're traveling. So he calls upon somebody to curse the Jews.
Yeah, that's
What was the name of the guy who was the
Bilam.
magician or whatever it is, the prophet? His name was Bilam. And we're going to read the story inside. Does anyone know what happened?
Yeah, he was supposed to curse us, but he ended up blessing us.
So he was called to curse, and he ended up blessing. Blessings. What was one of his famous blessings? We say it every morning. No.
That's tie.
I know that.
You know it. Ma tovu ahalecha Yaakov. You know Ma tovu?
I don't sing it.
What's Ma tovu? Ma tovu, how great. Ahalecha Yaakov are the tents of
Yeah,
Yaakov.
because they were across from each other. They were like faced.
One of the things that
How's
he
that
praised,
blessing? Isn't that
Hold
the
on,
same
hold
that
on.
we're just
One of the
not-
one of the blessings that he says is Matovu Olecha Yaakov v'Mishkanesecha Yisrael. How great are the tents of Jacob and the dwellings of Yisrael. And we're actually going to talk about that blessing at the end of class because I want to give you some perspective. But we say it in our morning prayers every single day. It's a very famous prayer that we say right after the Moda'ani prayer. The famous blessing that Bilam gave to the Jewish people, praising their tents. We'll talk about that. But let's go back a little bit to the story. Before we get into the story and we read it inside, let's talk for a moment about dreams. Do you know the Jewish perspective on dreams?
They're like a percentage of death.
Okay, so according to Judaism, dreams, when a person goes to sleep, he's a 60th dead. 60th of there's a 60th percent of death within the person. That's why when a person wakes up in the morning, there's a sense of impurity on them because they've entered that realm of death, which is very slight. And that's why we wash our hands, because we're impure. We wake up in the morning, we say Moda'ani. Notice the Moda'ani prayer that we say in the morning. We say Moda'ani lefanecha melachai v'kayim shechazarta b'nishmatzi v'cham l'rabba munasecha. We thank Hashem for returning our soul, because its soul sort of departed and came back. Notice we don't say the word Hashem. We say Moda'ani lefanecha. I thank you, Hashem. We don't say I thank you. It doesn't say I thank you, Hashem, because we don't utter Hashem's name before washing our hands. So the steps of, which is very interesting, the steps of a Jew, when a Jew wakes up in the morning, first thing, stretch, Moda'ani lefanecha, thank you, Hashem, for returning, shechazarta bi nishmasi, you returned my soul to me, thank you. Then we wash our hands, because there's impurity on our, left over on our nails, and we say the blessing of al natilat yadayim. But let's not veer off. Let's go back to what
We
our
also do that because the Kohanim did that.
not because of the not in the morning. The Kohanim is the washing. The concept of impurity is from the Kohanim, but that's not related specifically to the morning.
Okay.
Going back to dreams. Okay, have you ever woken up in the middle of the night from a night terror, and you're like, phew, thank God that wasn't real.
Yes.
Right? Or have you ever had such a good dream that you didn't want to come out of it? Right? Or it's like you're in touch with, like you have a loved one who has passed on that's talking
creepy.
to you. I've had that
Thank you.
where I've spoken to like my grandmother and she was talking to me and I was so annoyed. When my husband woke me, I'm like, shh, I'll come talk to you in a second. You want to go back into that dream. It's like such a warm, special feeling. Or maybe there's concern sometimes when a person dreams, is it real? Is it not real? So, the cynic inside of us will say, that's nothing, it's just a dream, don't think much of it. Just meaningless thoughts, or things that came to me. It's not, look, I'm here, the person is alive if you had it,
Yeah.
Now, the Sigmund Freud had a publication in 1899, very famous interpretation of dreams. And people have come to realize that what dreams are to a certain degree are the depths of our subconsciousness to some degree. Now, at a certain stage in history, the world took dreams very seriously.
Egyptians.
So first of all, I asked them to have today our siddur, because I wanted to show you something in the siddur. If you open up your siddur 3 times a year, what's known in Hebrew as the Shalosh Regalim, 3 times a year is when the Jewish people would travel to the Beis HaMikdash, to the Holy Temple, and they would gather together, and it was so special. People would rejoice and celebrate in the temple. Because remember, in the land of Israel, people lived far from the temple. They couldn't go every day. But 3 times a year, they would travel to spend the holiday there. Which holidays were there? Not the high holidays. It was Sukkot, the festival, Passover, Pesach, and Shavuot. So those 3 holidays is what's called in Hebrew Shalosh Regalim. Regel is a foot. People traveled by foot. They would go and they would travel to the temple. During that time, the Kohanim, the priests that served in the Beis HaMikdash, would bless the Jewish people. Till today, if somebody is a Kohen, they have the power to bless, and they, at these three holidays, if you come to the synagogue on these holidays, the Kohanim will stand up in the front and they will bless you. For those of you that are familiar, they put the men put their talis on, and your husband's a Kohen, right? They don't wear shoes like the Kohanim in the temple, and then they get their hands washed like the Kohanim.
Very nice.
It's very special. It's a very special thing. Yeah, and I always make sure to bring my children at Birchas Kohanim because it's a special blessing that you only get 3 times a year. So in Israel today, by the way, if you go to the Kotel, to the Western Wall, on any of these 3 holidays, it's unbelievable. I mean, the only holiday, I'll try to find a link and post it on the WhatsApp group. The only holiday that there's a video of it is on Sukkot, because Sukkot is for 7-8 days in Israel, 7 days, and on the Chol Hamod, on the intermediary days when work is allowed, you can record. On Pesach, it's just on the first 2 days, and on Shavuos, it's on the holiday where we don't use a video. But on Sukkot, you can see it where there's thousands of Kohanim blessing thousands upon thousands of people at the Kotel. And it's very, very special. Why am I saying this? Because when you come to Shul for this priestly blessing, there's a special prayer, and we actually spoke about it I don't know, I think 3-4 weeks ago, of the blessing or the prayer that we say during the time that the Kohanim are blessing us. So open up your Siddur to page number 568. Oh, by the way, just if you open up to page 12, I want to show you something. Open up to page 12, the table of contents. You see how there's the Siddur, and then there's all these different extra prayers we say on different holidays. So if you look at title number 4 on the right side, you see it says Shalosh Regalim, the 3 festivals, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. You see that on the right side? I'm on page 12, title number 4. So Shalosh Regalim, there's different things we do just for these holidays. So if you look at, I think number 5, it says priestly blessing on page 568. That is only said on these 3 holidays. So turn to page 568. By the way, you're following me? Am I clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I so sometimes we speak about so many different things. Yes, Devorah.
Wait, I think the Bukharian Jews say priestly blessing
Every week?
every Shabbat.
Very possible. We don't have our Bukharian friend Bella. She couldn't make it today. Bella, you're going to watch this. You'll tell us if that's true. Page 568 is the priestly blessing. And this is the same blessing that the Kohanim said in the times of the Beis HaMikdash, the times of the temple. And let's see, 568. Okay, so if you look over here on page 569, actually, you see on the bottom it says the blessing. Like you see on the bottom over here, it says Birchas Kohanim right here. See where I'm pointing? Birchas Kohanim. So the Kohanim, they say Yevarach Hashem Yishmercha. We say Amen. May the Lord bless you with livelihood and guard you, your possessions. Right. So that's the blessing on the bottom. 569 on the left. Those 3 lines. That's the blessing. Okay. Now, you see on the bottom line. Does anyone here read Hebrew? No? Okay. If you look on the bottom line, you see where it says, may the Lord holding back his anger, turn his merciful face towards you and give you peace. Raise your hand if you see that line.
Yeah.
Okay. You see the last 3 words says, give you peace? Yeah? Okay. How does it work? The Kohanim say word by word. The Chazan, the cantor in the synagogue, he'll say Yisa, and then the Kohanim say Yisa, and he says Elecha, Elecha. They repeat. That's the way the chant goes. When the the cantor says the Ya same, which means and give, right? And then the Kohanim respond, give. We say a paragraph. When the Kohen says, Lecha, to you, and then they respond to you, we say a second paragraph. And when he says shalom, peace, we say a third paragraph. What are these three paragraphs? Turn the page. See, on page 570, read on top. While the Kohanim sing the wordless tune before saying, but not while they say the yasem, which means and to give, the congregation says this paragraph. Look on the next paragraph. When the Kohanim sing the wordless tune before saying, but not while saying lecha, to you, the congregants say this paragraph. And then the third one. When the Kohanim sing the wordless tune before saying shalom, the congregation says this paragraph. You understand? You didn't understand, Liana? Which part?
That's okay, go on.
The three words at the end, when the Kohanim are saying give, you, peace, when they say give, we say paragraph 1. When they say you, we say paragraph 2. When they say shalom, peace, we say paragraph 3. And the reason I'm taking the time, even though this is not the main part of our class, is I think it's important to understand sometimes what goes on in the shul. I know that many of us come to the synagogue and it's like, this is really nice, but I have no clue what's going on. This is something that happens 3 times a year, and I promise each and every one of you, if you're going to be in shul on that day, you're going to be like, I remember, I know what to do. So I want you to know this because it's hard to learn everything at once. Bit by bit, we learn different things. Yes, Tony?
So the Kohen is singing that, or is saying or singing that one
They,
word?
there's a singing saying.
The one word.
Correct.
While the congregation
Is
is
saying that
the
paragraph.
whole paragraph.
Correct. During
You're
that
kind of saying
time.
it to yourself,
Yeah.
not out loud.
Correct.
You're reading it to yourself.
Okay.
And I just want to tell you, you know how I learned this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
How did I learn this?
From your father.
Why from my father?
Yeah,
No, why from my father, not my mother?
he was a Kohanim.
No.
No, because he knew more, no?
No.
Ah.
You're telling me the woman? No way. There's one reason.
He was the one who went to shul more.
You listen to him?
No.
He sang.
Because until I was bat mitzvah, I was under his talis.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
And he would, as the Kohen would read, he would say, Yevarechecha. How did he keep the children? For those that have been in shul, you hear my kids, they scream, Amen, right?
Yeah.
How did
That's when
he?
the babies
How did
start
my how did my father keep our attention? Because they would say Yevarechecha Hashem, and he would say, as the Kohen was reading the first word of the first line, he would say 1, 2, 3, and then we knew we could scream. How you keep kids' attention? A bunch of us stuffed under a talis, and then the next one he would say 1, 2, and this was. But then when we got to the last 3 words, V'yasam l'chasham, he would turn the page and he'd be like, "Okay, guys, now say this paragraph." Some of I didn't know how to read, so I didn't, but I knew that's how I knew. So.
It's
Yeah,
nice
it's
to be under the talus.
it's nice to be under your father's talis. I will.
You.
Yes, it is. It is. It's what the things that we receive as children or that we give our children, we underestimate how powerful they are. I gotta call my father and tell him my good memories of it. But we underestimate what a child. Children are so precious and they're so impressionable. And a child standing under a father's talis.
Nothing better.
Nothing better. So,
Why do you think we have to kids?
yeah,
He just wanted somebody under the
under the talis, right? So here's the thing. What are these paragraphs? Why am I even telling you about this? Let's read the paragraph, or take a moment. Rabbeinu Shalom, God, Master. I'm on page 570. Master of the universe, I am yours, and my dreams are yours. I have dreamed a dream, and I do not know what it means. May it be your will, Lord, my God, and the God of my fathers, that all my dreams that I have about myself and about any other Jewish people should be for the good, whether dreams I dreamed about others, whether I dreamed about myself, or whether others dreamed about me. If they are good dreams, strengthen them, reinforce them. May they be fulfilled in me and in them, other people involved, just as the dreams of Joseph the righteous were fulfilled. In the second paragraph, but if they are bad dreams and need to be fixed and cured, cure them as you did Chizkiyahu, the king of Judah, from his sickness. Cure them as you did Miriam the prophetess from her leprosy, and as you did Naaman from his leprosy. Fix them as you would sweeten the bitter waters of Marah through the hands of Moses, and as you cured the poisonous waters of Yericho through the prayer of Elisha. Third paragraph, just as you changed the curse of the wicked Balaam from a curse to a blessing, so should you change all my bad dreams about myself and about all Jewish people for the good. So this prayer includes our parsha. It's all about dreams, And it's basically, if you want to have good dreams, come to shul and read this prayer. It's a special opportune time. But it mentions in the third paragraph that you should change bad dreams into good dreams. Just like Bilam, that guy who cursed the Jewish people, his curses were changed. He never got to curse. He was changed into blessings. Yes?
Oh, that's what I wanted to know, because they mentioned wicked Balaam, so I wanted to know the point of reference.
Yes, so that is the point of reference.
Yeah,
So,
perfect, yeah.
okay, so close your siddur. I wanted you to see it in the siddur. And we're back in the Chumash. Now, we're basically asking that in our prayers that our dreams should turn out well for everybody that's involved. And why is it that we insist on using this opportunity to ask about dreams? Are dreams that important? According to Judaism, we were saying before, maybe dreams are nothing. So there's a lot of discussion about dreams in general within Jewish.
Well, Yosef says to pay attention to our dreams.
Yes, so there's a lot of discussion and thought about the meaning of dreams within Jewish tradition. There's a large selection of Jewish sources that say that dreams are a subtle form of prophecy, that there's like a subliminal message about our future. In fact, it talks about, in the Talmud, it says that a dream is 1/60th of prophecy. That the Talmud gives this assessment that there's 1/60th chance that there's a little kernel of truth within the dream. Maybe not the whole dream, but a part of the dream. Now, the Torah itself attests to the fact that dreams can be used as prophecy. It talks about, in Bamidbar, it talks about Hashem says, please listen to my words. If there are prophets among you, I will make myself known to him in a vision. I will speak to him in a dream. We know that a lot of the prophets within Jewish history, Hashem appeared to them only in a dream. Talks about Samuel, right? King Shmuel and Saul, the king. They had a conversation. Saul told Samuel that he was very distressed because he was battling the Plishtim, the Philistines, and God turned away from him. And he says he's not answering me in the prophets. He says he's not answering me in my dreams. So we see here dreams and prophecy within Judaism has a place. In addition, dreams can also, it talks about in Joel, it says that, and it shall come to pass forward, your elders will have dreams, your sons will have visions. I mean, I could bring you 30 quotes throughout Navi, through Tanakh, through, Torah, prophets, writings of different parts where dreams and prophecy are very related. So, according to Jewish tradition, there is an element that dreams are one way of delivering Hashem's messages. Now, the question now becomes why? Why does Hashem attach himself to a dream to give over a message? Right? Hashem could do anything.
Especially when it's so impure, with the state you're in. Why?
That a person is impure.
Yeah, you would think
So-
Hashem is more holy and you would not want to be around that.
So here's something interesting.
So obviously it's connecting somewhere else, maybe?
So when a person is less engaged in general in their physical senses, right? Like when you're fasting on Yom Kippur. So like the first hour you're good. By the next afternoon you're feeling a little hazy. You actually feel more in touch with different senses. It's like when you're not physically in touch, like if you're not physically if your physical senses are less engaged, right? Like when you're fasting or whatever, you're able to be in touch with your more spiritual senses, so to speak. There's a reason people feel very aroused on Yom Kippur. Not obviously the neshama is more in touch on that special day, but there's also because your physical senses are not taking you over, you're in touch a little bit with the finer things in life around you. And like we know many times before a person passes away, right? He all of a sudden it explains that the person doesn't feel suffocated by the heaviness of the body and they're able to see, right? So many people have like a certain wisdom right before they pass away. In fact, many of our patriarchs gave blessings, right? Jacob gave blessings to the 12 tribes at his deathbed. Many great sages have given words of wisdom just as they were passing away. So that's why dreams are likely to receive this divine inspiration, because like we're taught, sleep is the 60th of death. And when we slip into this unconsciousness of life to a certain degree, right? When we go to sleep, we're not conscious of what's around us. So there's like a hidden world that opens in our minds and in our life. And this heightened sense of spirituality can allow us to receive messages that are from a higher place. Makes sense, right? We're just more physically out of touch, so we're more spiritually in touch. And by the way, I saw a very nice explanation that a lot of people, as they elder, become more spiritual because their physical capacities are weakened. So when a person's physical, a young person who feels, even though not for this class, we have every age group here, but an older person, as their physical, a younger person, when they're strong and they're powerful, they can do anything. Their ego gets in the way sometimes. But an older person, as their physical capacities are a little bit weakened, then they gravitate towards more into meaningful pursuits because they are able to actually grasp it more strongly. So what's clear is that in earlier times, dreams were taken very seriously. Today, not as much. And while, in fact, Jewish law reinforces the view additionally that dreams are nothing. It's like we go from place to place. On the one hand, dreams, prophecy, right? On the other hand, Jewish law has a conversation, should we take a dream seriously? The Talmud talks about that if, let's say, somebody has, they have a dream about funds that were left by them through an inheritance, and it was never written on a legal document, a will or whatever it was, and they have a dream about it, and they come, and then that this is where the funds are, and then they wake up and they find the funds in that place. According to halacha, Jewish law, it doesn't belong to you. Because dreams, as nice as they are, as prophetic as they are, they on a practical level, they don't hold halachic ground, legal ground. So, in other words, on the one hand, there's value to the dream, but on the other hand, even in our own experiences, right? We have a stupid dream sometimes, and we're like, "Oh my God, what a crazy dream!" And then, as the day goes on, you tell someone, "I had this crazy dream last night," but it has no value. It also made no sense, right? Like things that can exist in our world can exist in our dreams, and we know from our own experiences that dreams are sometimes what we call shtusim, stupidities, right? So, what changed? Why do we no longer care? Why are we so easy to say, it was just a dream today versus years ago, like we just spoke about, experiences of prophets who took dreams very seriously? And one possible explanation is that times have changed. Back in the day, humankind in general had a more spiritual sensitivity. The world changed, right? People are far more materialistic today than they used to be. And people were more spiritually sensitive to a certain degree that they were able to use dreams as an interface, so to speak, to a spiritual world. But today, we're so, what's the right word? Steeped in physicality that we're not necessarily able to receive meaningful dreams.
Or dumbness, can't remember them.
Say again?
The dreams anymore.
That's another thing. So that's on one level. Maybe we're just less spiritually sensitive. But in addition, there are a number of neurological theories that discuss that that dreams are really our thoughts from the day. It's like if you were thinking about something all day and you dream about it at night, obviously you're going to dream about it at night because it's your subconscious. So, and it talks about this actually in the Talmud. There was the story of Caesar said to Rabbi Yehoshua, talks about in the Talmud, the son of Rabbi Hananiah. He said to him, "You say that you are clever. Tell me, what will I see in my dream tonight?" So Rabbi Yeshua tells him, "You will see the Persians making you do forced labor, and they will make you feel disgusting animals with a golden staff." So Caesar thought about the image the entire day, and at night he dreamt about it. That's how he was able to forestall his dream. In other words, and we know that for ourselves, right? How many times do you have like thoughts throughout the day, and then that night you had a dream, and it's literally just a jumble, something misconstrued about what you were thinking of.
How can one say that everybody is less spiritualistic now?
You
Because
can't.
There are always exceptions.
It's anything in life.
Right.
Anything in life.
You know,
Sure.
some people are more
Yeah.
materialistic.
Talking about
and
the world.
other people have
I'm not talking about.
become
I'm not talking
more
about people. I'm talking about the world.
Like,
The world as
yeah.
a whole.
Humanity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not as an individual, because you'll
Right.
find both in every all types in every generation.
True.
So, I guess we're left with our original question. So, why are we taking dreams seriously? I mean, we have a whole prayer on it. So, so based on what you learned just now, do you think dreams are thoughts, or there's truth to it?
A little of both.
It depends on the dream.
Sometimes not. It's like weird, right?
Yeah.
By the way, just so you know,
How would you know?
in you should know, a lot of Judaism, and we're not going so much into it right now, but a lot of Judaism says that dreams are really nothing. There's a couple of instances where you should take a dream seriously. If the person if a person comes to you 3 times with the same message, you should take a dream seriously. But there's very few cases where a dream should be taken seriously. Most of it is nothing. So,
You should eat spicy food before you go to bed.
yeah.
Seriously,
What?
Yeah.
there's
Don't you-
foundation
what about
for
eating
that.
cheese?
Or watch scary movies right before you go to bed. It's gonna ruin your dream.
Doesn't
Yeah.
cheese in your dream?
So
too?
let's put aside dreams.
Cheese before you go to sleep.
Let's put aside dreams just for one moment. Yes. Oh, I forgot to say thank you. If you have a dream about a holy person, then like a tzaddik, then it's Have you ever dreamed about the Rebbe?
Yes, I have.
Wow.
amazing.
Was it a good dream?
Yeah, it was actually. I was stressing out the day before about school. This happened when I lived in Israel, but at night, it was sort of like a out of body experience dream, you know, where you see like the room, you know.
Wow.
But anyway, I saw the Rebbe and he said everything's gonna be okay.
Wow. So special that the Rebbe came to you in a dream. What an
Yeah,
honor.
after that, it helped me like relax at school more and not be stressed out about stuff.
Have you ever met the Rebbe?
No.
Never.
That's amazing. Yeah, people have had very powerful dreams in general about the Rebbe. And in general, a tzaddik it's a totally different experience, because that's a pure neshama, and it's every neshama is pure, but very fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. So let's put aside let's put aside dreams for a moment. Let's talk about our parsha, right? So we're on page 1014, and we're talking about this story. So we're not gonna read the entire parsha because that'll take us too long, but I want to here, page 1014. So what happens is as follows: the Jewish people are marching confidently into the promised land. There's different enemies that are there to cut down and to fight the Jewish people. And the Jews have acquired a pretty good reputation, don't mess, because we pretty much knock you down. Moab is the kingdom that lies southeast of Israel, and the king, Balak, he despises the Jews, and he doesn't want the Jewish people to pass by peacefully. So he's also terrified of the Jewish army. They have a reputation. So he enlists the help of Bilam. Bilam is a sorcerer or a prophet of some level that has a good reputation out there. He can do stuff. And he enlists his help to go and curse the Jewish people. The plan was that Bilam would wait for the Jewish people, and then he would invoke curses on them till God would completely abandon them and fail. But the plan doesn't work out. What happens? First, I'll go through it, yes?
Something that always perplexes me, like sorcery is absolutely against all.
Well, he wasn't Jewish.
Well, then why was he solicited for his advice?
He wasn't.
Oh, I thought.
Balak and Bilam, two non-Jews.
Well, they, okay. They were Moabite.
Yeah, they were here to curse the Jews. They weren't Jews themselves. So, look at page 1015. Balak, the son of Tzipor, saw everything that Israel had done to the Amorites, right? Because that was the last nation that tried to fight them. Moab became terrified of Israel because they were numerous. In fact, because of the children of Israel, Moab became sick of their own lives. So he goes on and he invokes Bilam to come and he sends messengers, Balak, to Bilam. Look on page 1017. The elders of Moab and the elders of Midian went with tools of black magic in their hand. They came to Bilam and they told him Balak's message. He says, "Stay here overnight. I will give you an answer when God speaks to me." So the Moabite dignitary stayed with Bilam. God came to Bilam and said, "Who are these men with you?" Bilam said to God, "Balak, the son of Tzipor," and he goes through the whole story. And he basically gets into this huge argument. He says, Hashem says I can't do it. God says I can't do it. I'm not doing it. Balak, the messengers go back to Balak. Balak says, go again. They go again. Bilam says, I'm not doing it. Third time happens. He asks God in a dream, and Hashem says, do it. He goes, he's traveling on a donkey, and what happens? Bilam's journey. Look at page 1019. I'm not going through all of it, but Bilam got up in the morning. See where it says Bilam's journey on page 1019? He saddled his donkey and went to the Moabite dignitaries. God was angry that he was going, and so God's angel was placed on the road to obstruct him. He was riding on his donkey, and his two lads were with him. The donkey saw God's angel standing on the road with the sword drawn to its hand, so the donkey turned aside from the road and went into the field. Bilam beat the donkey to get it back on the road. God's angel stood in the path through the vineyards with a wall on one side and a wall on the other side. The donkey saw God's angel, and it pushed itself against the wall. It pressed Bilam's leg against the wall, and he beat it again. God's angel went further ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn right or left. The donkey saw God's angel, and it crouched down under Bilam. Bilam became angry, and he beat the donkey with a stick 3 times. God opened the donkey's mouth, and it said to Bilam, "What have I done to you that made you hit me 3 times?" Bilam says to the donkey, "It's because you've embarrassed me. If I had a sword in my hand, I'd kill you right now." The donkey says to Bilam, "Aren't I your donkey on which you have ridden since you first started until today? Do I normally do this to you?" "No," he said. God opened Bilam's eyes, and then he saw God's angel standing at the road with the sword drawn in its hand. He bowed and prostrated himself on his face. God's angel said to him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? Look, I've come out to obstruct you because you're hurrying on a journey against God. When the donkey saw me, it turned away 3 times. Had it not turned away from me, I would have killed you now and spared the donkey." Bilam said to God's angel, "I have sinned, for I didn't know that you were standing opposite me on the road. Now, if it displeases you, I'll go back." God says to Bilam, "Go with these men, but you may only speak words which I will tell you what to say." So Bilam went with Balak's dignitaries. Balak heard that Bilam was coming, so he went outside towards him to the largest city of Moab, which is on the border of Arnon. And basically what happens is Balak starts to speak curses and blessings come out. I mean, the whole parsha, it's fascinating to see all the beautiful, beautiful blessings against his will that he gave to the Jewish people. So,
What about the donkey? Isn't that amazing?
I guess if the sea could split, the donkey could talk, no? So if you look on 26. So what we see over here is that Bilam is ready to let out like a volley of curses, like a loose string of curses. And every thought that he had that was negative was turned into a positive. So, okay, it's a very nice story that the Jews are saved from the curses. But where did Bilam even get the power to curse? In other words, did he possess something magical that other people don't have? So the Talmud asks this question. And the Talmud shares something very, very interesting. It says in the Psalms, in our Tehillim, the book of King David, that Hashem gets angry every day. How long does his anger last? A moment. How long is a moment? 1/50th, 888,000 of an hour. This is the Talmud describes that tiny, tiny, tiny window that if Hashem's going to get angry, it's going to be then.
We don't want to be there.
Don't want to be there at that moment. And this is, so if anything bad happens, it's because that window was accessed of that time that Hashem gets angry. So basically what the Talmud is telling us is that the window of God's angry side, so to speak, opens every day for a tiny fraction of a second. And then it's slammed shut and Hashem continues on his merciful ways. So Bilam happened to know exactly when that moment was, and he was going to strike against the Jewish people at the time that God would not save them. I mean, we're talking about a fraction of a minute or a second. But what Hashem decided to do that day, in his extraordinary kindness, that he did not grow angry at all. There was no window opening at all that day. And Bilam tried in vain to find a time that he can open up and curse the Jewish people, but there was no window. So Hashem remained firm, and Bilam could have cursed, till the mow of cows came home type of thing, and nothing would have helped.
Nice.
So here's the thing. The Torah tells us that Bilam didn't actually utter any curses, right? All the things that he wanted to say turned into blessings. So, as far as we could see, there was never even a time when Bilam actually cursed the Jewish people. In fact, he didn't say any curses. So why then does the Talmud tell us that only due to the fact that Hashem held back his window of anger, that Bilam's curses didn't have an effect? It's irrelevant, because there was no window of time that he could even utter the curses.
I mean, you can still say the curses, but
No, but in other words, if Hashem didn't open a window of time that his anger port was there, that Bilam would have the ability to curse, then it's irrelevant, because it never would have happened. In other words, we're taught that Hashem did two things to thwart the curses, right? Thing number one, he turned the curses into blessings. Miracle. He had curses up his sleeve, they became into blessings. The second thing that he did to thwart the curses was that he closed that window of time of anger. Why was it necessary to do both? If there's no window of anger, the curses wouldn't have helped. And if the curses were turned to blessings anyway, why close the anger? You understand? It's like either do one or the other. You understand the question?
Yeah.
So, and we're told that if God actually would have been angry and those curses would have come to play, the Jewish people would perish forever. So what would have been that lurking danger? So here we learn something very powerful in life. Something that then was powerful and today is powerful. It's not so much in what Bilam did, it's in what he was thinking. He was a twisted, evil man. And though he said words of blessings, in his heart, he thought of every single curse. And in his heart and his mind, he continued to curse and hate the Jewish people. So even though he didn't actually utter it, those thoughts had potential to kill. And had Hashem's window of anger been opened on that day, there would possibly be damage. So thoughts are very, very, very powerful. They can change reality. Thoughts are not this flimsy idea that we think it to be. It's actually more powerful than we give it credit. You know, now we have an answer as to why we're weary of bad dreams. Hello. Are you here for the Yeah, and it's not starting till 12. But wait.
Okay,
Yeah. No, you don't have to wait outside. You can sit down. Or you could come to class. Yeah, you can come sit here. So the answer is that yes, dreams are not like prophecy, but the fact that things enter into our minds means they have the potential to become a reality. Thoughts have the potential to become a reality. And that is why we ask Hashem at the priestly blessing that if there was any thoughts that came into our head that were not good, just make sure they don't come into reality. Because there's power in thoughts. And by the way, that we should know that our thoughts that we think every single day can actually cause positive or negative. Have you ever, and by the way, you know, when Jacob was traveling, remember when Jacob was running away from Esau?
Mm-hmm.
Where was he running?
for his life.
He was running for his life, and he laid down to rest. Welcome. Join us. Jacob was running, he was forced to spend the night in the wilderness, remember? Mm-hmm. And what did he do to protect himself?
The rock.
Where did he put the rocks? Around his head. Not around his body, around his head. What about the rest of his body? Only his head needed protection. So the Rebbe actually answers this question by saying that the most important thing to protect is the mind. Because if the mind is protected, then the hands and feet will do what it needs to do. Our minds, our thoughts, negative thinking is extremely destructive. Even the psychologists and the psychiatrists today are all talking about negative thinking, positive energy, positive thoughts. They recognize that negative thinking can concretely affect us in a negative way. We need to be vigilant over our thoughts because our thoughts actually have a real power. So, I want to share with you a story. In the 1940s, there was a famous chassid by the name of Reb Mendel Futterfass. You heard of him?
What's his last name?
Futterfass. Mendel Futterfass was imprisoned and exiled to Siberia by the Soviet government. What was his crime? Teaching Torah and practicing Judaism. So, one year when he was in Siberia, it was his birthday. And he wanted to celebrate his birthday in a truly Hasidic manner. He wanted to have a farbrengen, a gathering. He wanted to say l'chaim. He wanted to have a cheshbon hanefesh where he takes an account of the whole year. And he wanted to have a private audience with his Rebbe. So obviously the friends that Reb Mendel had in Siberia were not the type of friends he would choose. They were a lot of them were political prisoners and not the greatest of men. And he knew that he couldn't have a Hasidic farbrengen on the night of his birthday. But he said, at least I could have a private audience with the Rebbe in my mind. Mm-hmm. And he pictures himself writing a note to the Rebbe and with all the guests with all his requests for blessings. And he imagines in his mind that he's giving he writes the letter in his mind and he hands the letter to the Rebbe and the Rebbe is reading the note. And then in his mind, his eyes are closed, the Rebbe assures him, don't worry, Reb Mendel, everything will be well. And Reb Mendel said, he writes, he felt encouraged and he felt strengthened. Years later, Mendel's released from Siberia. And he joins his wife and his children who in the meantime left communist Russia and settled in England. And he starts to go through the mail of letters that he received in his absence. And he comes across a telegram, a letter from the Rebbe. And the telegram's date was the day after Reb Mendel's birthday, a couple of years back. And the Rebbe had sent Mrs. Futterfass, his wife, a telegram saying, I received your husband's letter.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Really
I received your husband's letter. We have to be careful of our thoughts. Our thoughts are that powerful. And we also have to know that just like positively, they can have an effect negatively as well. Shakespeare put it, thought is free. So a lot of people don't put value so much on thought because, you think, I had a good idea. No, what did you do about it? I thought maybe I should help my neighbor. Did you help him? So people look at thought in general as like not something that is to be on the
judged on it? That's what people maybe
right.
And are you judged on your thoughts?
Are you judging your thoughts, or are you
would God judge us for our thoughts?
So
Would that be
thoughts are an interesting thing because thoughts to a certain degree you can't control. So we live in the world of action. Do we act on our thoughts?
Exactly.
However, we know
That's why I think they're kind of the more.
that's where it comes from. But you should know that a brain has no value if you don't exercise the potential to bring a concept into a thought, right? When you think of something, you're taking the chachma, the nothingness, and bringing it into an idea. So when I think of something, that's very powerful. That's why in Tanya, in Kabbalistic philosophy, Hasidic philosophy, it discusses that thought, speech, and action are all considered actions. Thought, to a certain degree, is an action itself. So there was a story of the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Chabad Rebbe, and we'll end with this. He had a phrase, think good and it will be good. In Yiddish, tracht gut wird sein gut. Think good and it will be good. When did this happen? There was a man who came to him to complain that his child was sick. And the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Chabad Rebbe, his response was, tracht gut wird sein gut. Now, one can think that the implications of this sentence is positive thinking. If you think good, it'll be good. But the Rebbe explains that the definition of faith is not blind faith. That Hashem, in his infinite glory, he's going to be kind and he's going to do something. Faith is an effort of the person. What does that mean? That when a person trusts in Hashem, that to the degree that he has such a trust in God that he's not even worried, it's a level. Because it's always that part of us. It's like, I trust in him, but, anything can happen. When a person has a level of trust that's so deep that he's not even worried, I trust in Hashem, that trust elicits a response from God in the same kindness. You understand? It's very deep, but it's very simple. It's not just positive thinking. It's the positive thinking and trust in Hashem that elicits God to have that same response. That's how powerful our thoughts are. That's how powerful our trust is. Positive thinking brings upon positivity, and negative thinking brings upon negativity. It's not just a fluffy thought. It's real. So real that even Bilam had the potential with his thoughts to kill, had Hashem not in his kindness closed that window of anger. So that's one thought I wanted to bring. And we know that Maimonides, the Rambam, famously declares that the world is standing, right, on balance. It's like a large scale. And that on one side are all our good deeds, and on the other side are the things that we don't do that are so good. And one mitzvah, we know if you've ever seen the old-fashioned scale, right? Yeah. One mitzvah, one little drop of water could totally flip the scale. And the Rebbe always spoke about this, that we never know that one mitzvah that we do, that one Shabbos that we keep, that one Shabbos candles that we light, that one tzedakah that we give, that one kindness that we do for a neighbor, that one prayer that we say, list any of the 613 mitzvahs, can literally tip the scale and bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe includes and says, according to the Rambam's determination that one more mitzvah, it's one action, it's one word, or even one thought that can tip the scale and cause salvation. So we see that within Judaism, and we see this with the story of Bilam, thought is very, very powerful. It all begins with thought. So imagine for one moment in our lives, think of one example in our life that's worrying us or that's holding us down. And imagine we can start to flip that and start to just to think, not to do, start to think positive. Do you know how much positive energy will be seeping out of our bones? You know the concept, like when you're surrounded with somebody with positive energy and negative energy. If you're sensitive enough, you can feel it. You feel negative energy and you feel positive energy. Imagine right now, we all thought positive. Positive about ourselves, positive about each other, positive about the world, positive about God. I feel all that energy just flowing, right? It's a real thing. So let's act on it, but let's think on it. All right, that's enough for today's class.
Yeah, that's great.
Amazing.
Amazing.